I didn't feel fright. I was angry. I was real angry.
You see the battleships Tennessee and West Virginia hit and on fire.
It's very emotional. It's a very, very emotional thing. Sometimes you choke up.
For us who were a part of this day of infamy, the memories will remain as long as we do.
Veterans Day 1991. Stepping proudly behind the newest vets from the Gulf War, men who witnessed history one bloody Sunday morning in Hawaii. A memory so lasting it's bound them together like brothers for 50 years.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
These survivors of Pearl Harbor meet every month to socialize and also to retell the old sea stories which just keep getting better.
We all went through the same thing. Some of us a little more than some of the others, but we were there at that time, and we feel like, you know, we're just close.
Now Gus and about a dozen others from Hampton Roads have returned to where it happened, returned to Pearl Harbor. Legend has it the Japanese planes flew through Koli Pass right behind Wheeler Field here. Actually, they didn't. They were up much higher. They were above the mountains. But what happened next changed history. We all know the story of Pearl Harbor, mostly through books and movies, but listen to it once more, through the eyes of your neighbors who were actually there. December 6th, 1941, a Saturday night, Liberty Night in Honolulu.
I went ashore the night before. I'd done the things that young sailors did, you know, I went to bars and I went to bed knowing full well that the next day I'll be able to sleep as long as I want.
Ship's bands competed in the Battle of Music. This group came in second, its last performance. Not a single member of the Arizona's band would survive. "7:02 a.m. December 7th. Two privates at the Army's new Opana radar site detect many contacts heading toward Oahu. They're told the contacts are Army B-17s from the mainland. They're not.
Guy hollered, "Hey, Sherry, come out here and watch them Army drop them toy bombs on Hickam Field." And about that time, boom, we got it in the side with a torpedo.
At 7:55, 183 Japanese planes began the first attack.
I was shocked. I was stunned. I couldn't believe it, really. When I saw these Japanese planes, it took a few minutes to sink in. And in the meantime, our ship had gotten hit, and then we started to turn over at the dock.
The torpedo hit the cruiser Helena. The concussion ripped open the smaller ship tied up alongside. The Japanese had perfected a torpedo with wooden fins for the shallow waters of Pearl Harbor. They decimated Battleship Row.
And as they went by us going over the Fort Allen to strafe, we looked right in the cockpit. And they looked over, and if you ever visualize a Japanese pilot with his big glasses on, with a big grin, that's what it looked like.
We had some 50 caliber machine guns in the planes. We'd just gotten back from Midway Island on Friday night, and we managed to set some of those up in pillboxes. And on one of the later strafing runs, we were firing.
We saw all the ships turn over. I saw the Utah turned over in front of the Raleigh. And then we saw all these other ships being hit, and it was a mess.
The Arizona's clock marked the hour of her death. An armor-piercing bomb exploded her magazines. These are the actual pictures. She sank 9 minutes later. By the second attack at 8:54, the ships were fighting back and many were getting underway.
I transmitted one message by 12-inch light to Phoenix, get her underway. Then I gave her the wrong side of Fort Allen to go out, so I had to send her a correction, so I had her out there twisting around.
The battleship Nevada was at morning colors when the attack began. Not a man broke ranks until the last note of the national anthem was played. Now Nevada was underway and under attack. Fearing she might be sunk in the channel, commanders ordered her grounded.
We got underway, we was behind a Nevada, and they run a fish into the Nevada, and they run that one aground. So we went on around the stern of it and got out.
Most ships weren't that lucky. 21 were sunk or heavily damaged. Half of the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps planes were destroyed. The human cost was appalling.
They were bringing those people off of those battleships, and I know this one litter, this person was in there, and they kind of dropped it, and the person just fell apart. He'd been burned and all so bad, he just fell apart.
In 2 hours, the Navy lost 3 times the number killed in World War I and the Spanish-American War combined. By the evening of December 7th, there wasn't much left of the Pacific Fleet beyond anger and a grim determination to fight back.
I had a good feeling that we were going to whip them.
And you did?
Sure did.
Andy Warhol was wrong. Some people do get more than 15 minutes of fame. For these guys, it's a lot nicer this time than it was 50 years ago. Just ask Dave Davenport of Virginia Beach.
Everybody's great. Everybody's having fun.
Many of the activities of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association are based here at the Sheraton Waikiki, right on the beach. There's a little bit of irony there. See, the Sheraton Waikiki is owned by the Japanese. So is the Royal Hawaiian next door, the historic Pink Palace where many servicemen stayed during the war. In fact, 65% of the hotel rooms on this resort strip are Japanese-owned. And strolling down Kalakaua Avenue, you're as likely to see visitors from Japan as from the U.S. mainland. During the boom years of the late 80s, Japanese dollars poured into Hawaii.
The investment level estimates range from, I've heard numbers as low as $9 billion to as high as $18 billion.
Most of it in luxury condos, homes, office buildings, and hotels. With the economic slowdown in Japan, investments have dropped dramatically, but the strong financial ties are likely to remain.
I think that the economic development of Hawaii in the future will be highly interrelated with the growth of Japan and the Pacific Rim and the Pacific Islands region.
It's a far cry from 50 years ago. So to some, it seemed unusual that the Japanese weren't invited to the Pearl Harbor observance. I tried to find out why from organizers, but was told bluntly that there would be no comment. It is a very touchy subject, but one that's very clear to Pearl Harbor survivors.
This is our celebration. This is our 50th anniversary. We're the Pearl Harbor survivors, and I don't think the Japanese have any part in this celebration.
Certainly they should apologize to us, and they keep claiming that it wasn't them that done it. Well, it was their government that done it, and they should apologize to us.
The veterans found a much different Pearl Harbor than the one they knew 50 years ago. There are still a few smaller ships and submarines, but the mighty Pacific Fleet is scattered at other bases now. Incredibly, though, the now modernized signal tower is still here. Julius Gus Gostel of Norfolk has been back before. 2 years ago, he donated a plaque to the tower crew.
This is the plaque. We all got a medal from Admiral Nimitz, gave us a commendation.
Oh, that you were,
and
your name.
Yeah, and see, these are the fellows that were on the tower at the time.
Up here, Gus and his shipmates had box seats for a nightmare.
Torpedo planes came up what we call Torpedo Junction between the subbase and the Navy station there, came right up the slot and dropped their torpedoes at Battleship Row.
Why do you think they never shot at you? I mean, here you are, you're a sitting duck up here, too.
The only thing I can say is the same reason they didn't bomb our storage spaces. They didn't bomb the Navy Yard over here with the ships. If they'd have done that, they would have had us.
Gus and the others stayed in the tower for 3 days.
The reason we stayed up here, it was safer to stay up here than it was to go down.
Fearing an invasion, sentries shot at anything that moved, including 8 planes from the carrier Enterprise returning to Pearl Harbor.
Somebody down below the tower, somewhere in this area, opened up with a 50 caliber machine gun, and when they did, it was just a mass of bullets that went up.
4 of the planes were shot down trying to land.
Like to sit in the dispatcher chair?
Yeah, well.
Gus was treated like royalty by the tower crew. Though separated by 50 years, their jobs are the same. His sons told me that Gus started talking about Pearl Harbor only a few years ago. Started remembering things he had tried so hard to forget.
You know, it was funny, I was talking to a fella on the castle, and one of my friends with the semaphore, I was standing straddled the rails, and when she got hit, he disappeared.
Yes, it's been 50 years, but yet the hurt remains, and it's never too far away.
It's an emotional feeling. All these young fellas got killed. I mean, they were wiped out for no reason. And you do choke up. I mean, it's an emotional thing.
There he is. Oh, I'm sorry. There he is now.
Some of the spring is gone from their step, but ask these guys about December 7th, 1941. You'll see their memories are razor sharp.
Set the gun up on a pump pipe, 50 caliber machine gun, and started when the second wave came over the bombers, we were firing the second wave.
Their return to Pearl Harbor has brought them to the air station at Kaneohe, where they spent that Sunday morning 50 years ago. Lots of things have changed. Now it's a Marine base, not Navy. FA-18s stand where their flying boats used to be. Yet still, it's all familiar, and memories come rushing back.
You're from the New Zealand.
The fighter planes came in, circled in over the bay, and began strafing all of the planes. And by the time we got down to the hangar area, all the planes were on fire.
The ammunition was blowing up. I said, this ain't no place for me, and I run across the street, and that was a torpedo shack. But when the bomb hit the corner of the hangar, and I seen a Buick as high as a hangar. The guy's Buick was up there.
The guns were firing again at Kaneohe, this time not in anger, but in honor. 19 guns, one for each of the men whose war ended the same day it began.
For us who were a part of this day of infamy, the memories will remain as long as we do.
Besides Kaneohe and obviously Pearl Harbor, the Japanese hit Bellows Field, Eva Field, Hickam Field, Wheeler Field, and Schofield Barracks, where Sam Long prepared for an invasion.
Every time I went by the ammunition truck, I got more ammunition. And I loaded up. I had it all across my shoulders and across my waist. And I made my mind say, if they come back, I'm going to try to be ready, you know.
They didn't come back, but some stayed. The Japanese lost 64 men and 29 planes.
I don't know if he's going to take a swing around where I can show you, where we're at.
John Delia of Norfolk helped recover some of them. Now he's back, almost in the exact spot where 50 years ago he worked aboard the crane ship Mary Ann.
The fellow there, he had, under his flying uniform, he had civilian clothes on, and he had $864 in American money. His aircraft was between the Arizona Memorial and the Visitors Center there.
John spent the night before the attack on Ford Island, sleeping off a night on the town.
There's the boathouse there, and up above the slips, it was where we slept at.
So that's where you were?
Yes,
During the attack, he was on a 50-foot boat, dodging strafing Japanese planes, rescuing men in the water.
We made 3 trips, and we brought about 50 people each trip, so we saved about 150 people.
Many not far from the dying battleship Arizona. Today, its grave is marked by a gleaming white monument. The ship is only 6 feet underwater. It's clearly visible. Some rusting parts are still above water. Thousands visit here each year, each for their own reason. 50 years ago, Alfred Preis had just immigrated to Hawaii from Austria. In the hysteria after the attack, he and his new bride, Yana, were arrested, separated, and interred. He slept in the mud on Sand Island in the Honolulu harbor. They took his wedding ring. But Alfred Preis has forgiven all of that.
I would have felt very comfortable if our authorities would simply have believed that I love America.
So he demonstrated that love in a most dramatic way. You see, Alfred Preis designed the Arizona Memorial. If you've never been to the Arizona Memorial, you should. It's a place of great simplicity and great dignity, a place where veterans often openly weep, a place where I've seen Japanese tourists bow their heads in prayer. It's a place that John Delia and his wife Dot have visited before. A special place for John, easing the pain of a 50-year-old scar.
Yeah, R.D. Valenti, gunner's mate 3rd class. There was a fellow by the name of Richard Valenti. He went to a snow school in San Jose, California with me, and we graduated together. And he was a real good friend of mine. And I meant to go see him. I kept putting it off. And as a result, I never did get to see him, because on December 7th, he was in number 2 turret. And to this day, he's still in there.
From the NBC newsroom in New York, the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii from the air.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
We, the survivors, remember each of you that bore witness to the events of that December day will always remember.
We kind of like to pay our respects to the ones that have lost their lives, and this is what this is all about.
The Japanese people are good people as a whole. I don't hold anything against them now. All that's gone. It's all gone out of my heart now.
Look at the water here, clear and quiet, bidding us to sum up and remember. One day, in what now seems another lifetime, it wrapped its arms around the finest sons any nation could ever have, and it carried them to a better world. May God bless them. May God bless America, the most wondrous land on earth.